Welcome, everyone, to our first edition of the VaeZine podcast. It's kind of an occasional podcast to just kind of talk about things about Vaesen, about the upcoming Vaesen issues, kind of what we've found interesting the last time since we had one. My hosts and I are glad that you're with us, David and Nell and myself. And so I will leave it to each of them to kind of introduce themselves, as they say. So, David, why don't you take it away?
Oh gosh. Yes, I'm David. I'm one of these freaks here that join on for me after midnight to record fantastic stuff about Vaesen, but I don't miss it. It's fun. I also do the Illusion HorrorCon, and usually in the beginning of December. So even if you haven't heard about this, it's certainly something as well. And more so, I think me and Thomas were couple of years ago, the first ones to came up with the idea of VaesenCon, and we put ourselves together and started VaesenCon, which we are now running for the third time this year. So very excited, and yeah, thank you for joining us here in our third project, or in my third major project, which is VaeZine, and with my beautiful co-hosts.
Hello.
No.
Oh, sorry. Well, I go by Nell online, but I go by Johnell. That's my full name, my second first name. But I'm not usually here to talk. I'm usually at the computer or at a cafe drawing. I'm the artist on the VaeZine or VaeZine, however it's pronounced. I just got, I don't know what to say. I guess I'm the newest here. But yeah, I just love horror. Got into Vaesen maybe the first time, maybe 2 years ago, and I got hooked ever since. Especially when it comes to the setting of it, which is quite fascinating. So, hello, welcome.
All right. And now just a little bit about myself, I guess, since I neglected to do that
That
at
would
the
be
beginning.
great.
Yeah, I'm a longtime gamer in a lot of ways, but of course, as all things were in the 80s, there was the you had to get rid of your Dungeons and Dragons. But I came back to gaming, gosh, probably about 7 years ago, and I guess it was probably about 3 or 4 years ago now at this point that I kind of came into contact with Vaesen. And unlike a lot of games, and I am a huge horror game fan, Call of Cthulhu is one of my favorites, but there was something about Vaesen that just kind of really attracted me to it. I do love folklore just in general. That's part of my background. But there's something about the storyline, and I think there was something unique and different about it being particularly focused in the Nordic area, which is something I've not all that familiar with, that just kind of really dragged me into it. And I think, and I'm probably not speaking out of turn when I speak in this, that I think all of us have a great fondness for, especially the art that comes in Vaesen and all of the books that they've done. It's just absolutely fantastic. And so I've been a part of Vaesen then for at least a few years. And as David mentioned, VaesenCon, doing the VaeZine, and just playing Vaesen as often as I can. In fact, my usual Tuesday group is typically we run Vaesen. We run a few other things every once in a while, but we've for about the last 9 months or so, we've kind of exclusively have been running Vaesen. So yeah. Speaking of which, what is it that's on everybody's table? Nell, what have you been playing? What have you been gaming?
I'm fortunate that I got my own Vaesen group. It's my first time running a campaign that's focused on the Rose House chapter. And unfortunately or fortunately, one of the players happens to be English, so I'm constantly corrected at how I pronounce certain words, certain cities. But it that's why I've been running. It's my first time running a campaign of this magnitude. I first ran for them God's Leash, which is more of a homebrew game. They really liked it. They really enjoyed it. It was my third time running it. My first group, I was able to play test that, and from then I don't know, it just took off. They really enjoyed the stories I had been coming up with, especially involving their characters. And it's more involving basically witches and an order of witches, which is unique in a sense where witches are not technically Vaesen, which makes it even harder. And of course, there's Vaesen involved. Like right now, they are dealing with a werewolf, a big werewolf problem in London, unfortunately. And that's what I've been running at my table when it comes to Vaesen. They have been enjoying it. I think our next session will be on the 22nd. So I've been running it since, I really don't know. It took 10 sessions to go through God's Leash. And now this is maybe our 5th session now. So it's been 15 sessions or even 15 or more. So it's been doing pretty good.
Yeah,
Running
that's one of the nice things I think about kind of when you're just playing with a group that you're with regularly, is that you don't have to really pay too much attention about how many sessions or how long they go. You know, it's not like a con where you got this 4-hour time slot, you got to get it done, you got to kind of push them through. But with a home group, it's just kind of just let it happen kind of more naturally, more organically. So, but I gotta ask now, you said there's differences. The witches aren't technically based, which you're right. But the hags are very similar. Do you kind of play off of anything with the hags, or do you really keep them a completely separate thing?
That's something I have been thinking about. And that's a good question because in God's Leash, infamous hag's been mentioned, Black Annis. That's a very known folklore that's known within the UK. So I kind of, in that case, I treat it as separate. A hag, in my opinion, is like who was once human, but yet as age catches up with them and whatever deeds they have done, they've gotten much older and they are no longer human. So that's a good question. I put hags as a different category, maybe the final form of a witch. While witches are kind of like that's their goal, to become a hag for however means necessary, how by any means necessary, but depends on the witch's motivation. So yeah, in short, I treat hags as a very separate thing.
Okay, I like that idea of the evolution. I think that kind of fits really well. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I did want to quickly mention up something here, Thomas, because the pressure of running games in like a 4-hour time slot, I think, is something that is difficult and often kind of frustrating, obviously, if you can't finish the ending as you wanted to. But again, that's, I think, also one of the strengths actually that I like about Vaesen. And when you have a group that you can play with regularly, it allows you to narratively connect the story as it kind of ends to a new one. So I feel like the aspect of this cozy horror that Vaesen produces, with this kind of, well, as far as I could tell, it is very hard to die in Vaesen as a character. So like I really enjoy this aspect compared to other systems and scenarios where, you know, it can be fun, but I also do enjoy my lazy cozy horror game that I can just focus on narrative and folklore. And as you said, you sometimes come up with something and you can narratively build on stuff. And I think even in a short 4-hour slot, you can create a wonderful kind of storyline, and then you can get them hooked and say like, hey, we meet up again next week and we continue the story. That's kind of what I like about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, it is one of those things. I mean, and part of that, I mean, is kind of the game master's experience, and everyone has their own kind of level of it, but being able to kind of pull in on something like that and kind of expand it to other things. But yeah, I mean, I know like Nell, you kind of do your own stories, and I know David, you write your own as well. I write my own because I know for myself, as soon as I get a hold of even a published scenario, whether it's one from Free League or whether it's one from the from Drive-Thru RPG, I have to change it. You know, it's because, you know, as soon as it meets the players, they're gonna change things, and that's the direction I want to go. You know, when because that's where they want to take it, that's where I want to go with it. And so sometimes you've got to keep the general idea of the story in the back of your head, but it may move in a completely different direction than, you know, the original author intended it to.
Yeah, which works with folklore too, right? It's you might just get that verbal translation of the story that that you heard, and it's not the original one that the author mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's historical. I mean,
Exactly.
I think most of us would be more familiar with the Disneyfied version of folklore, but that is miles apart from what was originally written. and or not. I shouldn't even say written. Was spoken, because folklore is a
Yep.
spoken tradition. But yeah. So anyway, we're getting a little off topic. Just perfectly
What is
okay.
on your table?
Yeah, what's on
Oh,
your
my
table?
table. Oh, we're skipping over David. Fine. All right.
Ah,
Fine.
well, I just
No, on my table, I just finished up, as I was kind of mentioning to you guys as we were talking before we started recording. I was just finishing up a story that I had been working on with my home group called the Prisoner, because I've been working on kind of building up a campaign. David and I are kind of working on something in the background, which I don't know if we're quite ready to talk too much about it yet at this point. But it's kind of a long-term kind of campaign type of thing, and it's called The Prisoner. And it's a story about well, I mean, what happens when the older version of society didn't always do things the way they should have. Because there is that tension that exists in the world of Vaesen between the changing world that's happening, which offsets the problem with the Vaesen, and so that's why they tend to act out. I think might be a good way of describing it. And then the thing is, though, too, is that causes then damage to humans. It causes damage then to the world of humans as well as to people, and so there could be a tendency to want to deal with that in sometimes a too harsh of a way, and so it kind of a lot of my scenarios, and this one in particular, kind of makes the players kind of deal with some of those moral questions, and so that's kind of what I've been playing is this one called the Prisoner, but I've been also working on a few other ideas in the back of my head. So, but yeah, so that David is what is on my table.
Cool. Sounds interesting. Yeah, then maybe finally it gets to me. I've been actually working on refining the Invisible Castle, which is coming up with the next VaeZine issue as a mission brief, and you'll get a discounted version through the magazine for the full scenario. And it is kind of a new take on the introductory scenario, in that it predates the Dance of Dream and gives a bit more context about really establishing society and castle, because that was kind of our main idea here at this issue, kind of focusing on castle, on city, on anything that is kind of society related. And so, yeah, I had this, I think the first draft, I looked it up, is like 2.5 years ago. I played it once. It worked out fine, but then I kind of left it always on the side, didn't touch it for a while. And then, yeah, just picked it up recently again and finished it finally. Had some fun playtesting it a couple times again. And I think the other thing that I'm currently working on is also a campaign, besides the one that Thomas and I are working on, but a third one, which actually Nell has played, called A Twisted Path,
That was
which is horrific. It's long. It is at the moment 60 pages of notes, and it's getting more and more. It is very intricate, it's detailed, and it leaves a bit more the cozy horror of Vaesen as some is used to, and it gets a bit more on the personal moral conflicts that Thomas also mentioned, because personally I really enjoy these types of horrors. And so, like, yeah, that's something I've been working on, and it's growing, it's flowering, it's blossoming into something that actually might see the light of day soon, and we'll see. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, getting those things to the light of day. That's because we've been working on this this scenario, David, for what, 2 years, 3 years, and it's kind of been
Yeah, it's been I think 2.5 years ago we had the first outline of how it's supposed to go, and still working on the details, I think.
definitely.
It's quite a lot, but I think it's going to be a fun little venture and story.
Hopefully.
We know obviously, because we are great writers and we got great content creators, right? That's why it's going to be fantastic. Positivity.
We hope so.
I told you about this, Thomas, before. Positivity. We want positive things.
I mean, Twisted Path wasn't positive. It's more like it was very cult-like. I recall it quite fondly.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a trip. I think one of the PCs nearly got killed the first hour when he came back.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
unexpected.
And I mean, to be fair, a lot of times you were the ones trying to kill each other through one means or the other. So, um, again, it works very deep on misdirection, the concept of reality, which in all essence of Vaesen can be manipulated. And in that scenario or campaign, it certainly is. So, yeah, that's pretty
Oh,
much what's on my table.
oh, excellent. Yeah, that's one of the things. As Dave was just saying, he and Nell have been able to kind of play together, and occasionally I get to play with Nell, and occasionally I get to play with David, but we don't often get to play together all that often. So hopefully one of
Yeah.
these days we can get that happening soon. I don't know, maybe during VasenCon, maybe we could set aside a little something or something. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah. Speaking though of VaeZine a little bit, we do have the next issue is currently kind of in production. It's um, most of the articles have been written and we're kind of finishing some things up. So we do have some things about that. As David kind of mentioned, it's going to mostly be situated about, we want to talk about the society. Last issue, we decided to kind of give them themes. And so last issue was about kind of water, sea-based type of things. And so this issue is kind of very much about urban Uppsala itself, as well as the society itself. And so a lot of things then that we've kind of been creating for this are very much kind of focused with that. And one of the things, I've been seeing Nell, she's been putting the art in our folder, our shared folder, and there's some really great stuff that's happening there. Nell, is there just what's some of the inspiration? Tell us, what is it that's getting you to, as David may mention, it seems, I mean, your art is for the VaeZine is getting, notches better and better and better each time. I mean, what's behind all of this?
Let's see. Other than blood sacrifices, let's see. It's I think it's more of what I see through your writing, actually. It's kind of hard to explain. I guess I get very excited. At the first art I've done, I was kind of timid. But then just honestly with your writing, you're pushing me like, okay, especially with the scenarios I have done art for, it has pushed me a bit more to like, okay, this needs to be more story driven. Like I have to think about these things like competition and whatnot. Um it's really your guys' ideas. It gets me really excited, and I love horror. I love looking at 19th century style illustrations. I just love black and white. So it's really what I enjoy drawing. So it's really that. And I don't know, it's I see it too, it's just getting better and better. I'm surprising myself. Like I think the one I'm really proud of is the one of the Noctin. Like, okay, he's human. There's just challenges that you're throwing me. Then, okay, how do I make this work? How can I show that he looks human, but when you look at him more closely, okay, he has scales. So hopefully that's not a convoluted answer, but that's the process. I just get really excited. I love black and white. I try to avoid color as much as I can, but I just enjoy drawing horror, and this is almost like an outlet. So this is what I really love doing. So
Mhm.
that's the process behind my art. So an excuse to draw any demonic sigils or whatever, just let me do it. That's what I'm good at. Anything
Let's remember
blasphemous, I'll
that.
do it. Yeah. So yeah, that's
Oh,
uh that's me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so
go ahead.
You want to say something?
No, I
no,
thought
I
Thomas
not a
was. Oh,
nope.
um,
Oh, go ahead.
no, yeah. So, I do want to keep the next issue maybe with a couple of insights on a bit of a back burner, and maybe mention early on the what we touched before is the VaesenCon. Now this time the third year, coming on September 6th to 8th. If you're not heard of it, it's a fantastic online event where you can play Vaesen, you can listen to panel discussions, talk to community members, creators, and just mingle amongst people and friends who like to do Vaesen. It is free of charge. We organize it pro bono, so to speak, and we just enjoy the idea of bringing people together and have a fantastic weekend. So for those of you who are interested to learn about more or deadlines or whatsoever, please visit our website on www.VaesenCon.com. And you find all the information there. We are also looking for, if you're a community content creator, or if you have, I don't know, a PhD in folklore, or you want to talk about specific topics related to Vaesen, please use our sign-up form for becoming a panelist. Registration is still open, and you can send us a short kind of introduction about yourself. And we have a couple of panel selections already there. But obviously, if you come up with something fantastic that we think the other panelists would enjoy too, we're going to try to put it together and yeah, share it with the community. I think by the time this comes out, we are not too far away from opening the GM submission. So that's when the fun begins, and GMs can submit their games for the con, which will be on July 12th. If nothing is distracting my eyesight here, then yeah, July 12th is the opening of GM submission, and then the fun begins. So maybe I want to ask the other two, what are your experiences or takeaways from the last VaesenCons that you would like to mention if somebody hasn't heard of it before?
Nell, you want to go first?
I'm actually thinking, I think my takeaway from VaesenCon is just that you finally, it's very niche. It's a niche game. So VaesenCon really gives it's a good place where you can find other people who like Vaesen as much as you do. So if you're curious about it, I mean, 19th century Scandinavian folklore horror. If you're into that, VaesenCon is really a good place to go, even trying it for the first time. That's how I myself got into Vaesen, is to play a couple games there. And it was and that's my takeaway from it, especially if you're curious and if you want something different than, like, I enjoy Call of Cthulhu, but I want something different. I mean, I love Lovecraft, I love Call of Cthulhu, but it's if you're looking for something different, Vaesen is where to go when it comes to, if especially like the Victorian era. So that's why, that's my takeaway from VaesenCon. It's a great way not to try the game. It's a great place to try the game, play with other people, and you get to meet other people. Maybe, hopefully, you were able to form a group. So, that's what I would say to someone who's not familiar with VaesenCon or has heard of it for the first time.
Okay. I guess for me, and a part of it is kind of being on the back end for some of those things and being a lot more involved with some of the panels, kind of moderating some of the panels and kind of speaking as a part of that. It was really a great opportunity for me in that respect, of being able to get to kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of bounce ideas off of different people, a lot of different content creators. And I know even the panels that I wasn't a part of, but had an opportunity to go back and kind of watch and listen to, because they're put out on YouTube, so anyone can see them. If you didn't participate in the con whatsoever, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line, you can still go and check out these panels that we did. But it was just, there was so much information and ideas about how to not just game, but also to kind of create ideas, create stories. How to understand better the kind of the mid part of the 19th century in which the game is kind of set. It was just, that was a lot of fun. And the same thing as Nell was saying, the opportunity to play. Now, I generally, with these sorts of things, I'm always much more a GM than I am a player. Which I love. I'm not complaining about being a forever GM. I love being a GM. But it does give that opportunity to meet a lot of different people, because there's these small groups that I normally play with. And when you are at a con, You get the opportunity to play with people would never have a chance to play with any other way, because the luck of the draw in a lot of sense, because it is a randomized a search for players in that respect. You're playing with people that you haven't gotten to before. And, and I found that always, well, I shouldn't say always, but it is a very positive experience in that respect. So that's what I say. The panel's absolutely fantastic. And then the opportunity to get to game with people.
Yes, and in addition to that, because I didn't play at all the last VasenCon, but I spent more time listening to the panels since I had more experience of running games. So I found those panels very interesting and useful, especially when it talks about, especially the folklore part. I love folklore. So I'll say especially with Vaesen, it's like if you like folklore, Vaesen is really a game to play, to experience that, the folkloric horror. So panels, yeah, I guess in addition to what Thomas has said, that the panels are great. They're great to listen to. There's lots of information. There's almost too much.
That is true.
Certainly too much.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of moderated the lion's share of them, David. So I can definitely speak to that. But yeah, but just to kind of talk about one more thing about the panel, I just kind of remembered as well. Because in a lot of sense, one of the panels that I did find particularly kind of helpful in terms of, 19th century is not the nicest of places. I mean, in its reality, it wasn't one of the nicest of places. And, and still at the same time, we want to play games. This is what we're here for, here to have fun. So it is then, how is it then, not necessarily just in terms of safety measures and things like that, but how to still get us into the realm and to the ethos and the ideas that are there, but also then not being overburdened then, or not being hit in the face then with some of the negative aspects, and how we can kind of deal with those elements of gaming, because it's there, unfortunately, in real life. But how do we then make it an enjoyable experience still to deal with that particular era? So
absolutely. And I think the last thing that I want to maybe throw in there and add, especially to the point to experience and try new things, I can say also that I myself will be offering kind of introductory game offers of how to play the game before the con, so you can kind of create your character, you can kind of play a bit, understand the basic mechanics. I usually do that very narrative, so you don't have to read anything, you don't have to have anything, you just show up at a given time and enjoy the idea of playing in a Victorian Nordic Scandinavia and have some creepy things happening. And so, yeah, enjoy a bit of cozy horror. So, certainly, don't be afraid. All nice people. We usually don't bite. If we do, it's not too hard. And yeah, we're excited if you would join us September 6 to 8, 2024. Jesus Christ, that's so many numbers. But yes.
Yeah, it's coming quick, and but we're doing what we can to get that put together. So it'll be a great experience for everyone. So
yeah, so maybe next on, speaking of scenarios and multiple opportunities that we speak of, now, do you want to maybe talk to us a bit about what your favorite community content was that you played so far, or maybe utilized? Because for those of you who read the VaeZine so far, might have noticed that we have a little section that is workshop, as well as letters that we introduced recently, that supports our community content creators. So if you publish something, we'll try to mention it. And if you have something to share with the community, we're also happy to publish that as well. Links and ways to contact us will be in the descriptions below. I think that's how they say it nowadays. But yeah, no.
Well, the one I've been really, especially the focus of my campaign, it's called the Satanic Witchcraft by Stewart. I've been referencing that a lot because now the players have been asking, oh, how do we deal with witches? Of course, it has the Witchfinder archetype, which I find very fascinating, a lot of fun to play as well. So I've been utilizing that a lot. And It gives me an idea. I think it's just interesting because again, witches are not Vaesen. They're not. So how can you fight someone, basically another person? That also leads to another moral dilemma when it comes to playing Vaesen. So I like referencing that a lot, especially when characters are trying to find ways to try to deal with witches. So yeah, that was my highlight. The one I keep reference to, Satanic Witchcraft. If you want to do anything about witches, that is the one I go to the most. It has, as I mentioned, the archetype. It has like items that is used to that has magic. Let's see, items of power and wards, things like that. I would just say just that is the content I've been referring to the most. Satanic Witchcraft.
Fantastic. What about you, Thomas?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the one that I was kind of thinking about. It's one of the scenarios. It's not actually one that I've played yet. I have read through it, and just it's the ideas in it is one that really kind of sparked my attention. That's kind of the reason why I want to highlight. It's called A Small Development by Bryon Kershaw. I think it was published. You'd really have to go searching in Drive Through RPG to find it because I think it was about over a year ago that it came out. But it's kind of this kind of fascinating idea. It takes place in Castle Gillencrutz, and I don't think it gives any spoilers away because it literally says in the beginning of the scenario for the front page of it, in which the player characters have been shrunk down to the size of rats and must navigate their home in a new and wildly unfamiliar way. And so they're basically kind of getting, it's kind of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, kind of mashed up then with Nordic horror and folklore. And I can see a lot of opportunities for some really fun moments at the table, and especially then this kind of getting away, maybe as something that's kind of in between some of the more serious kind of scenarios. I could kind of see this one for, but it's just this kind of wonderful idea of changing a dynamic that you normally expect something just to kind of normally happen to you, and then kind of turn it on that head. It's just an idea that I really, really like. And I don't know if I would ever necessarily make someone small in a scenario that I was running, though I would probably, if I ever had an opportunity, I'd like to run this one. But just as some mechanic, figuring out other ways of kind of changing the way that we normally would look at our day-to-day lives around Castle Gillencrutz is just a fantastic thing. And so that's why kind of A Small Development by Bryon Kershaw is the one that I thought was worthy of kind of highlighting. So what about you, David? What do you got for us?
Actually, I think it's similar time, about a year or so ago. It's Kev Walsh, first scenario, The Sorrow at St. Bees. Now this is written for the Mythic Britain and Ireland expansion. But I have to say, I read it, I ran it, and it, like, if it encompasses anything more, like it is the classical idea, at least the way I ran it. It came out to be this Miss Marple midsummer murder mystery, cozy atmosphere while creating. I don't know. It might have been the players, but like, it's very well written. You get the idea. You get the vibe from it too. It has beautiful setting. The mystery itself is very enticing, intriguing. You have this desperate police constable who's basically trying to solve a murder, and he doesn't because you need to help him, obviously. It's so many little themes and vibes that just so flawlessly work together. Yeah, I just have to shout out, well done, Kev. I really enjoy this. It's fun, and I can just recommend it. It's written in it's written well, very well for new GMs as well. So like, if you think you don't really know how to run Vaesen yet, it's still easy to pick up. If you watch any sort of like murder mystery show, you probably will do fine. Yeah, just a very fantastic setting coupled with a simple but yet beautifully put together mystery. It caught my eye, and I think it's still one of my top 3 contestant for all-time community content creation. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Oh, cool.
it's
That's
very,
great.
very well written.
I got to ask because it's ringing some bells. Does it take place up in the north, up near like
Uh,
Scotland? On the coast?
Cumbrian coast, yeah, the Cumbrian coast.
Okay. Okay. I think I know which one. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I remember reading through that one again. Yeah.
It is
Excellent.
very, very fun. I can recommend it. It's certainly one of my favorites, and yeah, can't stress that enough. It's also
Excellent.
easy to remember. Like once you've read it, you can just sit down and just play it. I feel at least it went for me because I watched so many murder mystery shows that like I feel like I'm just adding then elements of like, oh, Miss Marple comes out of the bakery shop and she has her things to say, and then Father Brown comes down the aisle from the church, and you know you put all these things together and it's beautiful. It just works very nicely. Yeah.
Excellent.
But yeah, maybe that brings us to our recent issue, Thomas, right?
Yeah, but like I mentioned earlier, we're still in the process of it. We're kind of moving along, and we're working on it to be kind of focused again on the society and also on Castle Gillenkrutz itself. David's already made mention of the article, or excuse me, the mission brief that he's doing. At the same time, we're working on some exciting new upgrades to Castle Gillenkrutz that might be in there to kind of tease that a little bit. I've been letting my mind kind of wander a little bit and kind of figuring some of those things out. Also, then we're looking at, as we normally do as well, having then the location, which we've decided is going to be kind of the back alleys. So it's one that's really kind of helping kind of the vagabond, to kind of put the vagabond a little bit more front and center, because I think the city's kind of a good place for them. And we do have some interesting spotlight that we have. David and I had the opportunity to meet with the guys from Modern Vaesen, and we got to play a game with them, scenario with them, as well as then have an interview with them, which was absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, Nell was busy that day, and so we couldn't get her in there. We really wanted to have her to be a part of that, but unfortunately, she just timing, because well, they're in Europe, and well, David's in Europe, and Nell and I are in the U.S., but on opposite coasts, and so getting getting everything to line up can be a bit of a bear with that. But we have that interview. David's working on kind of a little bit of a transcript of that, and then we'll also be publishing the full interview online as well. So we'll get that out to you soon. Am I missing anything? Am I forgetting something of some of our content to kind of tease out?
Very good letters, quite an amount of letters of contributions about the society, additional mission brief or scenario brief.
That's right.
Also submitted. Yeah, and obviously all of your community content up from February up till now. Listed. So if you want to publish something, publish it soon so we can mention it in due time. Otherwise, if you have any more things to add, the next issue will be coming out after that. So just write us a letter. And if you want to publish something or help build community, have opinions, topics or themes that you want to mention, I think that's what we're trying to establish with our VaeZine effort.
And I would just add, even though we're doing kind of very themed things in terms of the things that we're all writing, David, Nell, and myself, for any letters or anything like that you want to send in, we're not demanding that it kind of conform then to our theme for that particular issue. So don't worry about that. We just love to hear what it is that you guys are doing at your tables and things to share with other people. So artwork too, right? Right now, got to get some nice artwork for other people. It'd be great to have, if you drew characters, PCs, whatever. Those would be nice to kind of share with the community too. So don't send those in. So, all right. Anything else about VaeZine?
Don't think I don't want to spoil too much. So it's great cover art and fantastic art throughout. As I just want to mention, because again, you get the full length scenario as well. So I can just say from my side, the mission brief turned out pretty neat. So very excited about that one. And excited to hear what do you think. But also, yeah, I'm very excited for this issue to come out.
Oh, Speaking of which, we've got to get it out. And so that means we do need to kind of wrap things up for today in our podcast, the VaeZine inaugural podcast. Any last thoughts or last words from any of you guys before we sign off?
Don't be afraid to share your content if you want to help build the community, especially when it comes to like such small fields of a particular system. We try to establish a platform that allows you to do that and bring people together. So please contact us, reach out. We'll try to do anything we can in order to promote content or to help people. I actually did a playthrough for the Roleplay Ukraine, which was very fun as well. Kind of supporting a convention that brought in medical aids for the war in Ukraine. So anything we can, or you have ideas for, please reach out. That's what our community content program is for.
I don't know if I have anything else to add, to be honest. Nope, really, I don't really have anything to add at the top of my head.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, and I just kind of echoing a little bit what David said. I mean, the whole reason why we kind of all got together to do VasenCon, to do VaeZine, is for the purpose of building up the Vaesen community, because we do love this game. We enjoy it a lot, and we want to kind of be able to see it to grow and kind of expand, and maybe hopefully get Free League to put out a few more supplements for this thing as well.
Oh, that would be great, please.
No,
please?
don't get
I would
greedy.
love.
We said don't get greedy.
That's true, but still, I would love to have another bestiary with all the art that Johan would be able to make. I mean, just imagine that. Just imagine that.
Johan, please hear our thoughts. Hear our prayers for you to continue drawing.
So
you have so many more realms to work in.
Oh, well, thank you everyone for joining us on this first issue of the VaeZine podcast. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, this is going to be a little bit, it's not going to be a regular thing, but whenever we've got things to kind of share, we'll come back together to kind of give everyone an update. And so thank you. I'm Thomas. Wishing you all a good well. To my co-hosts, David and Nell, if you want to sign off, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, as he said, Johnell, Nell, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, I'm David, and I hope to see you all at VaesenCon at September 6 to 8, as either a panelist, if you're interested, or as a player. And yeah, don't be afraid. Enjoy the cozy horror. See you then.
Preach it, brother. Preach it. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.